It was interesting, actually. We had a good panel debate about premium content, what it means. And I think from a Sky Media perspective, it is very much around brand safety, it's around premium content, it's around people's perception of course, what premium means to them. It can be very personal, but I would say, from a live sport perspective and the amount that we invest from Sky Media's perspective, it is very important that it is around the content and the great content that we have invested in. So there's a real focus for us on the environment, how people engage, regardless of that screen, but making sure that the content drives that audience and sort of brings that viewership in.
So Sky pioneered targetability inside advertising in the UK with products like AdSmart. How has that played out over the last, decade or more now? To what extent are advertisers adopting that?
So, we've talked about addressable for a long time. You mentioned AdSmart, and that absolutely was sort of pioneering, back in the day, sort of over a decade ago. And I think the reality is that it is still something very unique to Sky. I think what Sky has had a great ability to do and continues to do is lead and innovate in that space, in that measurement space. So not just from an AdSmart perspective, that still is incredibly important to our market, incredibly important to our advertisers and agencies, but also things like C-Flight, One Campaign. There are measurement tools that we're looking at that ultimately sort of allow people to buy in a deduplicated way, addressable media. So we're trying to open that up, and that absolutely is on the roadmap for the future for Sky as well.
And at this time when perhaps some brands are considering their TV spend, what role do you think premium video has in that? And do you think TV was premium video all along, I guess?
Yeah, I definitely would say that. I think linear TV, we talk a lot about where, the demise of linear TV, and I certainly don't see or feel that. And I think, linear TV and that premium content on TV across all broadcasters is still incredibly important to us. What we're trying to do is create premium TV across more platforms, and I think Sky do that well, whether it's Advanced, AdSmart, you've already spoken about. But from a social perspective, I wouldn't necessarily see linear as being left behind. I think it certainly complements multiple platforms and media elsewhere, so from a social perspective as well.
What can we expect next from Sky Media in 2025? I think you recently had your upfronts. Would you have new technology, new partnerships coming?
Yeah, we have a lot in the space. We're doing very well with our media partners. We're talking more around how we complement and partner with them across particularly women's sport. So that's a real focus for us. So Hearst, with regards to the women's lifestyle element, cross-platform partnerships around women's sport that actually is tapping into an audience that isn't necessarily niche, it's really growing, and so that's going to be really important for us. Data, big buzzword. It actually, for us, data has been a significant part of our ecosystem, if you like, for a number of years, and it is becoming more and more important. We know who is watching our content, we have subscribers obviously, and so trying to connect that to agencies and audiences and advertisers will be ever more important. We've got things like Project Norman coming out, which is an incredible sort of AI database of data and information and insight, which we're sort of leading for agencies next year.
Oh, tell me more about Project Norman.
So ultimately, it's going to be, rather than an isolated view of data, it is going to be looking across multiple data sets and individuals, bringing that together to then layer over media and marketing insights.
Interesting. And you alluded to women's sport and also Premier League as well. Tell me what's happening there.
So Premier League, obviously a massive investment for us. It's the first time in 3 years that we're coming to market with a sponsorship. So from next year, we'll be out in market talking to everyone about that opportunity. It's an incredible opportunity. It's massive scale. It's with a very highly engaged audience. So you can imagine, how that would be, would benefit a brand and an advertiser. Women's sport as well, we've done an awful lot in this space, whether it's tennis, golf, football with the WSL. There is a lot of emphasis around women's sport. And as I said earlier, it is not a niche audience. It's an audience and a young audience that is growing significantly. So we're really pleased with that. But I think when you look at sort of broad viewing, and I look at sort of, from a TNT perspective, one of our media partners, we reached something like 29 million people in the last year. It is huge, huge viewing numbers across our properties. and that's off the 5% up year on year, off a really good year the year before, up 17%. So we're performing really well in that space, and it's still a really big chunk of what we sell. Live sport is very engaging, with a really big audience.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, let's stay tuned for 25.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.